सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। Om. May Brahman protect us both. May Brahman bestow upon us both the fruit of knowledge. May we both obtain the energy to acquire knowledge. May what we both study reveal the truth. May we cherish no ill feeling toward each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnan Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Om Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varisthaya Ramakrishna Te Namaha. Today we are going to deal with a very, very important topic according to me. What is it? What is the subject? The last part of Sri Ramakrishna's Leela at Kamarpukur. As I mentioned earlier, Sri Ramakrishna's life can be divided into how many parts? Some people divide into 3, some divide into 4. 3 parts until he comes to Calcutta, first part. And in Calcutta, until he realizes God through all the means, is the second part. And the last part is after that he trains the disciples until his passing away. Some people add one more. What is that? What he did or he is doing through the establishment of the Ramakrishna Sangha. Because we believe Sri Ramakrishna is still there and he is still propagating, he is preaching his message everywhere. Today we will try to see how much we can cover the last part of his Leela at Kamarpukur. Now before we enter into it, one more point we need to understand properly. That is, unless we understand at least one avatara, it is not possible to understand the other avataras. How do we know all the other avataras, the peculiar ways they have behaved, the incidents that had happened in their lives? It is very difficult to understand. But if we understand at least one avatara properly, then we can understand the other avataras. And how do we understand other avataras? Through understanding one particular avatara in 2 ways. The first way is analyzing his own, the type of incidents that happened and how they happened. The second way of understanding is what they speak about the previous incarnations. Why is it? Because we all know the avatara comes from the same source. Sri Ramakrishna confirms it. What does he say? He says, I was born as Rama, I was born as Krishna. And by extension, what it means is, he is also born as Buddha, as Jesus, as any other incarnation, or any other incarnation that is going to come in the future. Let us keep in mind these 2 things, how a particular avatara behaves in his own life and what statements he makes regarding the other avataras, because there is a law. As we say in a funny way, to catch one thief, you set another thief. To understand one avatara, who can do that? To understand one avatara fully, another avatara is necessary. The whole thing, of course, is based on faith. Because if we do not have faith, then you can question anything. Very briefly, I want to touch on this subject. The relationship between reason and revelation. According to Vedanta, This is an age of reason. We want everything to be explained in the form of a rational explanation, reason. According to Vedanta, there are two types of reasoning. How many types? Two types. What are they? Laukika yukti, Shastra or Vaidika yukti. Reason according to our intellect. This is called Laukika. Laukika means worldly. Worldly means according to our present intellect. Vaidika means Shastra Pramana. You have to trust it in the authenticity of the scripture. Why? Because worldly reason can function only through word. Now, reason can function only in one way. Do you know what is that way? Through experience of events. You see a table, then you try to find out whether this table, what is it, what is its nature, etc. Even to reason, first comes experience and then comes reason. What is the relationship between experience and reason? Experience is just an experience. Reason is to understand that experience in the proper light. This is how the whole of science, it can only function. You know how science functions? In 3 steps. Collection of data, analysis of data, and arriving at hypotheses which can be proved through experimentation. The whole main point is whatever conclusion science arrives at is only with regard to what? This world. The knowledge obtained through the 5 sense organs. It doesn't have the slightest clue about what we call the supernatural knowledge. God exists, or devil exists, or heaven, hell exists, or there is afterlife. All these things are beyond the realm of science. And science is the highest type of reasoning that we can rely upon. But it has absolutely no authority to speak about God or any such thing. Is that point clear? Therefore, what is it that can tell us about that knowledge which is beyond the sense organs? That is called scripture, Shastra Pramana. Pramana means the proof, the instrument by which we come to know right knowledge is called Pramana. Proof of other knowledge. What is the proof? Only scripture. And what is a scripture? It is the direct experience of sages. Now, how to prove it? If Sri Ramakrishna says, I have seen God, can you prove or can you disprove? Not possible. Because unless, if you see God, then you can say, yes, he also has seen God. So you are the only proof. That means your direct experience is the only proof what the other man is telling. Okay, that applies in science also. How do we know that science is, what science arrives at in conclusion is right or wrong? How do you know? Because you can experiment and you will come to the same conclusion. And it applies also in the realm of spirituality. You also apply, only you apply spiritual laboratory, spiritual experiments, spiritual experience, then you know. But there is another way, it's not a direct way, but it is an indirect way of knowing whether somebody is speaking about God, etc., is it true or not. You know what is it? So there is a law. That law is every type of knowledge brings about a change in the conduct of one's life. Any type of knowledge brings about a transformation in our life. If somebody has spiritual experience, it also must bring about transformation. In the morality also is something which can be experienced. Truthfulness and helping, unselfishness, compassion, loving others, etc. Also, we can see that it is true. What transformation comes in a person who has not seen God, but who lives a moral life. You have to be very clear about it. Suppose Sri Ramakrishna has not experienced any spiritual thing. But did he live a moral life or not? Truthful life, moral life, etc. What was the law we were discussing earlier? Every experience must bring about a transformation in one's life, in character. If someone led really a moral life, dharmic life we call it, what type of change would come in that person's life? Can you tell? He becomes very peaceful and he gets the most wonderful type of happiness, not to be compared with any of the ordinary types of happinesses. Again, when we are discussing these things, you have to think deeply and come to your own firmness of understanding. Earlier we discussed 5 types of happinesses. Vishayananda, or sensual happiness, intellectual happiness, aesthetic happiness, moral happiness, and then spiritual happiness. So it is possible to be moral without being spiritual, but it is not possible to be spiritual without being moral. And we find quite a number of people in this world who are moral without being spiritual. Now the whole point is this. If that person is not experiencing something positive, can he continue his moral life? Is it possible? But can we understand what type of happiness that person is getting? It's not possible. This truth holds good not only in moral and spiritual experience. This truth is also true if we all eat one sweet, same type of sweet. Do you think everybody's happiness is different or same? It would be different depending upon their likes, dislikes, health, and then the time of the day and the way it is served and who serves it. If a person whom you intensely dislike gives you the best sweet also, will it bring you happiness or unhappiness? And if the person whom you love best gives even the most untasteful food also, will it taste tasty or not? Is it a psychological taste or is it a real taste? Every day we are going through this. What is the point we are discussing? If someone has got genuine spiritual experiences, then some certain character change would take place. That is how we can infer. If this is the effect, the cause also must be very great. And we see that a worldly person's happiness doesn't bring about this kind of elevation of character. That is absolutely true. Coming back now, 2 types of reasoning we said. One is worldly reasoning, another is scriptural reasoning. What is a scripture? The experiences of saints and sages, like Vedas, What is Veda? The discoveries of rishis. Truths discovered by a rishi. A sage who discovers or uncovers a higher spiritual truth, he is called a rishi. And what is every scripture? Nothing but discoveries of. What do you mean by discovery? What I meant. You see, when you say, I discovered my long lost pen, that doesn't bring any change. Not much change. Some change will come, not much change. Means experience. Discovery means it is not intellectual process, it is not a physical process, it is a direct experience of a truth. That is what is meant by discovery. When we are studying the lives of these great people, always what we need to keep in mind is that we are dealing with a scripture. The life of Sri Ramakrishna is a scripture. And the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna is also a scripture. That's what we need to keep in mind. Now, we will discuss about how Sri Ramakrishna's village life was before he departed to Dakshina, Kolkata. And there an extraordinary change had come. As the moment he went to Calcutta, the second phase of his life started. Even though it took a little time for him to come to Dakshina, even that dramatic event, how he happened to come to Dakshineshwar and why at all the temple at Dakshineshwar was built, that's a very dramatic event which we will discuss in future classes. But now for the moment, I have noted down certain points we wanted to find out about this. Here also, there are three phases are there. Sri Ramakrishna's relationship with the entire village, as it were. Both men, women, young, old, and including some of the hypocrites. First phase. Second phase is some of the people who recognized Sri Ramakrishna's greatness even at that when he was very young. Because he was hardly how many years? 16, 17 years when he left Kamarpukur. Third, most important, that what was his relationship with the women. Again, this relationship can be divided into two parts. One is relationship with the aged, elderly women, and another relationship with his, what is called, colleagues of the same age or even younger age or slightly older than him, women, especially women. Now, why do we need, why should I discuss this part, so very important? Because we have to understand Krishna Leela that happened in the life of Sri Krishna. It's a most important thing. We will discuss about it. First, Gadadhar's greatness recognized. Those few fortunate souls of Kamarpukur who were able to discern the greatness of Gadadhar actually worshipped him. One of these was Srinivas, a low-caste Hindu whose family lived by making shell bracelets. The master often spoke highly of this man's great piety and spirituality. He loved Gadadhar and took delight in his company, and often holding animated discussions with him on the Bhagavad. One day, as he was making a garland for worship, Gadadhar came. Srinivas at once brought some sweetmeats from the market and, concealing them in his cloth, conducted Gadadhar to a secluded spot under a tree in the Maidan. Looking about to be sure that he was not observed, he worshipped Gadadhar, hanging the garland on him and feeding him with sweets. With eyes bathed in tears and a voice choked with feeling, he said, I have become old and feel my end approaching. I shall not have the good luck to see the many wonderful things that you will do in the world. I only pray that you will ever look with compassion upon this unworthy servant of yours. This incident, I am sure most of you have read, but it's a most marvelous incident. What does this incident really show? One of the, no, he was not the first one. Shudiram himself was the first man. Chandramani Devi was the first. And so many miracles were happening in the family of Gadadhar himself. But he was one of the few, and an old man recognized Gadadhar. What a wonderful thing. And then 2 points we have to note down. Here, first thing is that the same things happened in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Bhagavan, Ramchandra, and in other people. Even if the recordings are there, we have to understand the divine nature of these great souls cannot be concealed. Okay, second point is, what is the first point? That he was revealing himself. How did Srinivasan Shankari, how did he recognize young Gadai? There must be a special grace, that is what Sri Krishna tells. Nobody can recognize me unless I reveal myself to them. Sri Ramakrishna must have found out this man's sincerity. And what is the second point? Even in that remote village, there were some people who did recognize Gadai as an incarnation of God and did not hesitate to worship. Now look at it. In our normal experiences, will an elderly person ever worship any younger person as a great person, especially the parents and other people? They tend normally to look down, but here was a person, and the third point also you can make, he was not a literate person, he was just a ordinary villager, and he must have been extraordinarily spiritually advanced person to recognize Gadai not only as a spiritual person, but as an incarnation of God. That's why he says, the many wonderful things you are going to do. It's not, I hope you are going to do a lot of wonderful things. You are going to do, I will not be able to see it. That is why the same thing happened in the life of Jesus. One old man recognized him And he said, with the tears in his eyes, I would be alive to see all the great things you are going to. Okay, I will just mention it before going into it. There were so many men in the village, they were attracted by Gadadhar in two different ways, or for two different reasons. The first reason was, he was one of the best readers or singers of scriptures, of devotional songs, of any type of song. He was the best person. Now, who is the best reader? Very interesting. How do we know who is the best reader? On our website, you have our readings of Joe. When you listen to his way of reading, even here also experience, something happens to you, is it not? You really like it. It goes deep into it. Is it not a fact? And when some others read, you sit there waiting for it to come to an end. So he was an extraordinary reader, singer, etc. Not only he was merely a reader, when he was reading, he used to be absorbed himself. When he used to sing, he used to be absorbed. Another reason why they liked him so much is, you can see there is so much joy emanating from him. That's why everybody loved him, excepting hypocrite. They were the only people who did not derive any joy from him. But he used it to attract everybody. Now attraction means, you understand? Attraction means, to which will you be attracted? Only that object which gives us happiness, we will be attracted. And the opposite is also true. This is the first point we have to note. He was a wonderful reader, singer. He was used to be absorbed in it, not for the sake of other people. What is the next point? He used to emanate so much of joy. Another point with regard to this, who is a good reader, you see, when a person is reading a scripture, the scripture tries to convey certain feelings through their teaching. When Gada used to read, others used to feel those feelings. When some people sing, the bhava or the emotion of that particular song, we feel very deeply. And that is how we are attracted to it. This is the one side of Sri Ramakrishna's greatness. This next side, it may be true, there are people who have the talent of singing or reading with their beautiful voice. People with beautiful voice. But there is another side to it. Immaculate, spotless character. Everybody recognized in Gadadhar that immaculate character. What is immaculate character? That he is totally motiveless. When he reads, he is not expecting something from you. He is doing it more for his own joy. He is unselfish. He is loving. He will never deviate from truthfulness. From the very beginning they have observed certain qualities in Gadadhar. One of them is, he will always observe truth like his father, Sridhara. And he is fearless. Because we discussed it, truthfulness and fearlessness always go together. If you are not fearless, you cannot be truthful. And if you want to be truthful, necessarily you have to be fearless. Yes. We also speak truth when it is not inconvenient and when there is no threat. You observe that. When there is a threat, then we have a problem. Because of these two characteristics, people used to like him very much. And some of them, I will not go into the details, you can find out, they had keen insight that he was a great soul, and the way his mind works is so great that certain problems for which they do not find any solution, they will approach Gadai. Even though he was a small boy, even a 60, 70 years old man will approach and say, Gadai, I have this problem. Will you help me? How am I to deal with that problem? And he would also immediately give a solution. Interesting point. How does he give a solution? Does he think? Yes. Is it only thinking? He will get absorbed. His mind will be able to see the past, the present, and the future, and the consequences. And he will give, and here is the important part, without any hesitation, they will accept that solution given by him and act upon it. That means with what regard they are telling. If you have a problem, if your parents, if your friends, if your spouse or anybody tells you, you have to think, shall I do what they ask me to do? But supposing Sri Ramakrishna comes and tells you, you do this way, what will you do? Unhesitatingly, you will take it, his advice, and put it into practice. Do we? I don't think so. He's always telling, think always of God. Have you taken that advice? Accepting that. We say, accepting that, if you tell me anything else, I will obey. We do that to a great extent. We want to do it. This is the speciality of devotees. We would like to follow Sri Ramakrishna unhesitatingly, unquestioningly. What is our problem? The problem is not that we do not wish to do. The problem is we are unable to do because of our past samskaras. This is the truth. So don't say that I am disobeying Sri Ramakrishna. I am not able to do full justice because of my own strong past habits. Some of the older people used to. But what is surprising is not only men, women also considered him as God. They also used to confess their problems. Now tell me, what type of problems women will be having? They can have social problems. They can have personal health problems. Which woman will disclose to a man, I have got this personal, women have peculiar physiological bodily problems. How many women are ready to confess to another man, I have this problem? But these women have absolutely no hesitation. How and why? Because if they are conscious that here is a grown-up man and I am a woman, if they are conscious of that, they would never open their mouth. A woman can only talk their problems with other women who also have this same type of problem. But here, Gadai was a young man. You must remember, he was about 17 years old. That is called the very flush of the new youth. And yet these women never hesitated. Why? That means they knew how pure his character was. This is one point. If any woman confesses to another young person their personal problems, it can also create a reaction in the other man if he was an ordinary man. But here they knew that Gadai will not be moved because they could see day in and day out. One more point before we go into it. One more point. How did Gadadhar acquire that wonderful character where he could meet without hesitation both with men and women, especially young women. Women in general and especially young women in general. This is the whole point upon which hinges our understanding of what is called Rasa Leela. Before that, I'll give you some instances. I will have to give you a general introduction. In the Bhagavatam, in the 10th skandha, there are 5 chapters dealing with a very special type of Sri Krishna's Leela with gopis. I'm not going to describe itself right now. I'm only giving you the background. Background gleaned from both Bhagavatam as well as from Sri Ramakrishna's utterances. Many people misunderstand Sri Krishna's Rasa Leela. This is called Rasa Pancha Adhyay, 5 chapters dealing with the Rasa Leela of Bhagavan Krishna with gopis. What is Rasa Leela? Sri Krishna sporting with young gopis. It is described in 5 chapters. This has created a lot of problems in so many other people. But I am not going to deal with what other people think. I am going to deal with what we ourselves think about it. First of all, I have to give you the background. What is Sri Ramakrishna's hints or teachings or experiences before we come to this relationship? The first thing is, according to Sri Ramakrishna, who are the gopis? Devotees.
There were sages who were recognized Ramayana and earlier.
Yeah. Sri Ramakrishna gives a specific example. He says, when Sri Rama was passing through Dandakaranya, thousands of rishis, they have seen him. And they were all previously worshippers of the Nirguna, Nirvishesha, Nirakara, Brahman, the impersonal aspect of God. But the moment they beheld Sri Rama, their whole mind changed exactly. And then they fell in love with him. And then he wanted to fulfill their desires. He said, for fulfilling their desires, what was the desire? They wanted to establish the sweetest, the intensest relationship, or the most inner, intense, sweet relationship with Sri Rama. They were also male. Then Bhagavan Rama, it is according to Sri Ramakrishna, he said, I have not checked it, it might be in Adhyatma Ramayana, but I have to check it. According to Sri Ramakrishna, Rama said, in this life, I will not be able to fulfill your desires. I will come in a minute. Why it is not? I will be incarnating again as Krishna. And in that incarnation, you also will take special bodies and then I will fulfill your desire. According to Sri Ramakrishna's teaching, who are the gopis? The rishis, thousands of rishis. That is the first hint that we give. Now I will jump what Bhagavatam itself tells. In the Rasa Panchadhyayi, when I was studying, it was so absorbing, fascinating for me. A new chapter opened in my life, as it were. What was the Rasalila was telling? You know the brief story. They wanted to be alone with Krishna and sport. So for that, what was the first thing they did? They wanted to enjoy the presence of Sri Krishna. They wanted to play with Krishna, do this Rasalila. For that, what was the first thing they did? They went and worshipped Mother Katyayani, said, "Oh Mother, we want to sport with Bhagavan Krishna." That is most important point. Because if you pray to God, we want to love God. If you want to get devotion, jnana, knowledge, viveka, discrimination, and vairagya, dispassion, to whom should you pray? God means what? In the form of Mahamaya. Because Mahamaya manifests in the form of our mind, our thoughts, our samskaras, our memories, etc. They worshipped Mother Katyayani. And she must have granted the boon, yes, you will meet Sri Krishna. Then they approached Krishna and Krishna promised them that I will play with you one night. I will let you know when the time comes. Okay, this is the first hint. They approached after prayer to the Divine Mother. With her grace only they got the grace of Bhagavan Krishna. The next point is they all came, as you know, and there were a lot of dramas have taken place. They were so happy. It is said very briefly. It is so interesting a chapter. It is said that they were filled with pride. What was the pride? Each one, each gopi. I got Krishna through my spiritual effort. Every gopi felt that feeling that because of me, I am able to get Krishna. And Sri Krishna had to let them know it is not because of your efforts, it's because of my grace. And this accords with Sri Krishna's teaching in the Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Hesha Gunamaye Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva e Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarandite. This divine Maya, this Maya is mine. So nobody can cross over this Maya without my grace. Only those who worship me, they get my grace, and then through my grace, they will be able to cross over it. This is the understanding. They got Divine Mother's grace, but still that ahankara, they should have thought it is the Divine Mother Katyayani's grace because of whom we obtained Bhagavan Krishna, is it not? But they forgot about it. And then the moment that ego came, what did happen next thing? Sri Krishna disappeared. And then they realized through that we were foolish to think that we were thinking that because of our efforts, Bhagavan, this is because of our efforts. That is called egotism. I did this, I did that. Okay. Then you see, they felt repentant. And this repentance was expressed in the form of beautiful shlokas, 19 shlokas. It came to be known as Gopika Geetam. One of them we are all familiar with. What is it? Tava Katha Amritam Tapta Jivanam. You just meditate upon the meaning. You will understand what type of realization came. But there is another, I am going to quote it. It says, Nakhalu Gopika Nandano Bhavan Akhila Dehinam Antaratmadrik Vikhanas Arthito Vishwaguptaye Sakha Udeyivan Satvatam Kule. I'll explain the meaning. Nakhalu Gopika Nandano Bhavan. You are not the mere son of an ordinary gopi, ordinary woman. And Akhila Dehinam Antaratma Drik. You are the inner witness in every being in this world. Not only that. Vikhanasarthito Vishwaguptaye. For the protection of the world, Vishwaguptaye. Vikhanasarthito. Brahma requested, O Lord, please incarnate for the protection of this earth. Vishwagupta. Sakha, O friend. Udeyivan Satvatam Kule. The lineage in which Krishna was born is called Sattva Kula. So in the lineage of Sattva Kula or Vrishni Kula, you are incarnated, requested by Brahma for the protection of this world. Two factors they are telling by this. One factor is, as unborn Paramatma, you are the indweller in every creature. But now, right now, in front of our eyes, you are the incarnation of God. Who are born, they recognized Him. You are an incarnation of God. You are born because of the prayer of Brahma. Same thing you apply to Sri Ramakrishna. We always say, wherever dharma goes down and adharma increases, then I incarnate myself to bring about balance in this world. This is the point. Who can tell? Does an ordinary woman without any spiritual knowledge can issue this kind of statement? Like that, there are 19 statements are there. And then, you know the meaning of Tava Kathamritam, Tapta Jivanam. For those who are being burnt in the fire of this world, you are like Amrita. Just as a person who drinks Amrita, what does he become? Amrita. Amrita means what? Immortal. Immortal becomes immortal. And therefore, whoever preaches or propagates your name, they will be the greatest givers in this world. I'm only telling you in brief because I don't want to go too much. This is the second factor we realize from the Bhagavatam itself. First, Divine Mother's grace. Second, this egotism came, and then Krishna disappeared, and the gopis, they were praying, "Oh Lord, it's our fault. We will never again go through this experience." The moment they said that, then again he appeared. How did he appear? Sakshat Manmatha Manmathaha. Manmatha means the most beautiful person who agitates, churns each one's mind. But he was so beautiful, he started churning the mind of Manmatha himself. Manmatha Manmatha. You know what is Manmatha? Mon Mathan Kori. This is the next point we have to understand. Third point from the Bhagavatam itself. You see, this Rasa Leela is over, but in the third point, Rasa Leela was going on. When it is going on, how did Krishna play with the gopis? You all know. Come on, what is the answer? How many gopis were there? Plenty. How many Krishnas were there? One. For each gopi, one Krishna. What is the point? Does the point strike you? Can any man can sport with any woman? If there are two women, you know what he will become? Peace. Both will be pulling and he will become half. If there are three, he becomes three. And if there are 10, but here each gopi was beholding one Krishna. If any being can assume that kind of infinite, many number of Krishnas, who could that be? Could it be a person with a body? Impossible. So he must be somebody who is not bodiless, because if you have a body, you can only have one body. If you have a body, you can be only here. You can't be even 1 millimeter away from where you are. So many groups were there. it is said 18 groups of gopis were there. So it is one of the interpreted 19 verses. The 19th verse is sung by everybody. It is said. But all the 18 verses, each group is composing and singing one verse. So 18 groups. In each group, how many other we do not know. So how many Krishnas were there? As many gopis, as many Krishnas. This is the third point. What is the import I am trying to convey to you? If anybody can assume so many forms, can he be a human being? The fourth point, very important point. The sport is over and Sri Krishna asked them to return home. Whole night, and it is said on a autumnal moonlit, full moon night, this has happened. Morning came and he returned. Now what was the reaction of their family members there, especially their husbands? What was their affection, the effect upon them? What was their reaction? I will read out. Nasuyan khalu krishnaya mohitaha tasya mayaya manyamanaha swapashvastan swan daran vrajaikasaha. This is the 33rd verse in that skanda adhyaya. But he says, no husband missed his wife even for a single millisecond. As though the wife was by his side only whole night. Now if you have read Bhagavatam, does this ring any bells to you of another incident in Krishna Leela? Don't look at me like that. When Brahma hid all the cows, Krishna was left alone. What did he do? He assumed the form of all his friends, all the cows and all the cows. He already did that. So who became all the boys and cows and everything? Krishna. If he can become cows and cows, could he not become everything? In fact, he is everything. That was the lesson Brahma has learned. Not only that, the Brahma came after 6 months. 6 months means according to our time 6 months. According to him, just a second. Second. He came and he was astonished to see everything was going on exactly the same way. Then he said, I hid all these fellows in the cave. He went into the cave. And what did he see? All the fellows were there. And then he came out. All the fellows were there. So he rubbed his eyes 2-3 times. And then he found out that then he got confused. And then he understood. This is called Krishna Lila. What is that? Everything is nothing but God. Krishna or God. Then his eyes were opened and then he came and fell at the feet. Now, all the gopis were found by their husbands in their beds by that time. They never left the bedside of their... Now, interesting point is, very interesting point. The real gopis were where? With Krishna. And who was there with the husbands? Imagine, for a meditation, sleeping by the side of Krishna, where would their mind be? They were all great people because they have seen Krishna's miracles in every way. Okay? These are the hints we get. Then one of the things is a side note, not really necessary for our discussion. So what happened after Krishna disappeared during the Rasa Leela? Then they all went in search of Bhagavan Krishna. So they were saying, where could he go? They didn't understand. He could just be there and not be visible. So when we don't see somebody in this room, 5 minutes back I have seen somebody, now I don't see. What do you think I do? I go in search of him, search for him either in this room or the other room or whatever it is. Now what do you think when Krishna is by the side of the Gopas? How elevated their mind must have been. Will it be or not? In fact, all the Gopas, according to Bhagavatam, who were they? All the Gopas and Gopis, who were they? They were all Devatas, born to help the mission of Bhagavan Krishna. Now, this incident I was telling. So what happened? They went in search of. So they were finding that 2 pairs of footsteps were visible. And they could see 1 pair of footsteps was Krishna's. How did they know? Because his footsteps had very special marks there. The Shankha, Chakra and all that. So if it falls on the dust, then clearly they could see. They followed. And then they followed there, and then they saw, after some time, in a little bit of the forest, one lady sitting there, one gopi sitting there and weeping. So they knew. So what happened? He says, I so loved Krishna, he followed me, and we were going into the forest to be alone. Then what happened? He said, I became so egotistic. I asked him to carry me. So he took me in his arms. After a second or so, he dumped me on the ground and disappeared. I am also weeping. I am also searching for him. Now I realize, who was that lady? According to Brahma Vaivarta Purana, she was Vrishabhanu's, daughter. She was called Radha. This incident doesn't come in the Bhagavatam. This is an extra additional detail. She was called Radha. So anyway, what is the point? If he could become so many Krishnas, he must be God only. And to get God, they also must be great spiritual people. Now, how do we know that? One already quotation I gave you. That's Sri Ramakrishna's statement. These gopis were not ordinary people, but they were. Now, what I want to do, before we go deep into it, I am quoting from the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. For this class, I will take two people. Swami Vijnanananda, three people. Swami Vijnanananda, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Turiyananda. This is what Swami Vijnananda is telling. Once, Sri Ramakrishna told Swami Vijnanananda, in the Krishna incarnation, I played with the cowherd boys and girls, the gopis in Vrindavan. Then Vijnanananda is reminiscing. I was then a college student and could not believe what the master had said. What was that? That Sri Ramakrishna was Sri Krishna. He could not believe. Perceiving my doubt, the master began to describe the gopis' love for Krishna. The gopis' love was a genuine divine love. They were mad for Krishna. Hearing the flute of Krishna, they would leave their husbands and rush to him. Although Krishna was not wealthy, they loved him more than they did their own lives. They offered their bodies and minds, everything to Krishna. It is written in the Bhagavata that Krishna played with the gopis during the full moon night of autumn, Rashalila. Krishna was immersed in samadhi and the gopis were also in ecstasy. I want you to hear this again and again and again. Krishna was immersed in samadhi and the gopis were also in ecstasy. That is Rashalila. Saying this, the master lost outward consciousness and became immersed in samadhi. I was also absorbed in a divine mood, thinking of Krishna's play with the gopis. At that time, being in the master's field of influence was like being in the place where the Rasa festival was enacted. Did you hear it? That means he was also actually with Krishna when the Rasa Leela was being enacted. While I was within those bounds, the veil of ignorance that covered my understanding of the Rasa Leela disappeared. I had a wonderful experience about the Rasa Leela. When the master came down from samadhi, he looked at me and smiled. I was dumbfounded because for the first time, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna really understood what was the real Rasa Leela. This is only, mind you, this is only background for what we are going to discuss in future. Another, one day at Dakshineswar, the master told his nephew Ramlal, I want to wear a yellow cloth like Krishna's. Ramlal took a new cloth and soaked it in water that had been mixed with turmeric paste. When it was dry, the master put on that cloth and a garland. Pointing to the cloth and the garland, he said, O Pitambara, Vanamali. Ramakrishna was repeating. Pitambara means one who wears yellow garments. Vanamali means one who puts on garlands. Repeating these epithets of Krishna, he went into ecstasy and began to roll on the ground. The cloth dropped from his body and the garland was torn to pieces. Ramlal then dressed the master in a white cloth and began to praise Krishna. The master sat there motionless. Before I go further, I will also narrate an incident. One day, Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineswar, he called all his disciples and monastic disciples, said, sit surrounding me and then you meditate upon me. This is called Rasa Leela. Now you understand what is Rasa Leela. Real Rasa Leela. It is in this light we have to understand what Krishna had done. Then, from the great master, I am reading a little, Swami Sharadananda wrote, when the master started to practice Mathura Bhava, he was eager to wear women's clothing and jewelry. Knowing the master's desire, the devoted Mathur provided him with a beautiful and expensive saree from Varanasi, a skirt, a bodice and a scarf. To complete the transformation, Mathur brought him a wig with curly hair and a set of gold jewelry. It is no wonder that under the influence of the woman's attire, his feminine traits were aroused. But no one could have ever imagined that while immersed in that mood, his movements, speech, smile, glance, gestures and other actions, as well as his thoughts, would become completely feminine. Now comes a very, very important teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. Please listen carefully. Master to the devotees. This is from the Gospel. Sri Krishna has a peacock feather on his crest, always. The feather bears the sign of the female sex. You know that it's got a spot, etc. The significance of this is that Krishna carries Prakriti, the female principle, on his head. When Krishna joined the circle of the gopis to dance with them, he appeared there as a woman. So, he appeared there as a woman. That is why you see him wearing women's apparel in the company of the gopis. Which man will put on yellow apparel? He was not dressing like a man, he was dressing like a woman. Very important point. Listen carefully. Unless a man assumes the nature of a woman, he is not entitled to her company. Assuming the attitude of a woman, he can sport with her and enjoy her company. So when a man assumes the form of a woman, what would be their relationship? There would be no sexual difference. I am a man, you are a woman. You are a woman, I am also a woman. Now I will come back to Swami Turiyananda. Sri Ramakrishna as a woman, as Radha, as a Sakhi of the Divine Mother. What was Swami telling? There is no idea of lust or sympathy in the love of Krishna and Radha. Radha says to Krishna, if you place your feet on my heart, all lust will vanish. Do you see what is the point? If God comes in your heart, will there be more lust or will there be all the lust will disappear? And we can also recollect many direct disciples, direct experience. One Swami Brahmananda, he went and said, I have this problem of lust. Sri Ramakrishna said, you stretch your tongue. And he wrote something. And after that, said, the lust disappeared forever from my life. This was the experience of Swami Turiyananda, Swami Yogananda, Swami Shivananda, and perhaps everybody. I don't know. I have told you just now that it is very difficult to understand the love of the gopis. There are not wanting fools, even in the midst of us, who cannot understand the marvelous significance of that most marvelous of all episode. Now I come to Swami Vivekananda. In his lectures at Madras, he gave these points. There are, let me repeat, impure fools, even born of our blood, who try to shrink from that as if from something impure. To them I have only to say, first make yourselves pure. And you must remember that he who tells the history of the love of the gopis is none else but Shukadeva. You understand what is the point? Who narrated the Bhagavatam? Who narrated? Shukadeva. Who was Shukadeva? The purest, the highest of Paramahamsas known to Vedanta in this whole world. There is an incident. I cannot refrain myself from telling. You know, this Shukadeva was born at the age of 16. 16 years it was said, he was in the womb of the mother. Because he thought, if I am born, I'll be caught in the clutches of the Maya. So Vyasadeva had to pray to Divine Mother, cover him for a second, otherwise he refuses to come out. And then Mahamaya allowed. She said, I can only cover him for a moment. And what did Mahamaya tell about Swami Vivekananda? I cannot cover him even for a moment. Yes. This Shukadeva, as soon as he was born, he started going away. There is absolutely no attachment to mother, father, and nothing of that sort. He was going. What happened? On the way, there was a lake. And so many very beautiful young women were taking bath. They kept their clothes outside and they were taking bath. Shukadeva, totally naked, 16 years old. He was passing by. What was their reaction? Absolutely no reaction. As though a piece of wood is walking. Now what happened? He passed. His father, he had attachment. Says, "Oh my son, oh my son." He was going. And the description goes, when he was shouting, all the wood, all the trees, all the hills, all the mountains, all the rivers, "Yes, father, yes, father, yes, father, yes, father." Means what? He was identified with everything. So, Vedavyasa, fully clothed, old man, he had to pass. The moment these young women beheld, immediately they jumped out of the water, covered themselves, and then stood. So the story goes, Vedavyasa was astounded. He stopped and asked, "How is it? My young son, completely naked, he was passing by, and you did not take any notice. I am an old man, I am fully covered, I am walking, and immediately you jump." The short reply they gave was, "Oh Vyasa, when you came near us, we became conscious that we are women, we are naked, and we have to cover ourselves. A man is covered." What is the meaning? We are aware that you are aware that you are a human being, you are a man, and we are women, and this is the difference in the sex, gender. All this you are completely aware. Because who wrote all this Rasalila? Who wrote?
Yes.
It took some time. It was Vedavyasa only. So what was the idea? Shukadeva had absolutely no sense that I am the body. I am divine. That was feeling. If we are in the presence of such a person, and that is proved in Sri Ramakrishna's life, no woman ever hesitated to be in his presence. Why? Because they did not feel that we are women and here is a man. And Sri Ramakrishna never felt he was either a man or a woman. Or if at all he felt that more he was a woman than a man.
He slept in between Motibabu and Jagannath Devi.
So many incidents. We will come later on. So here is Swami Vivekananda telling, "You must remember that he who tells the history of the love of the gopis is none else but Shukadeva. Historian who records this marvelous love of the gopis is one who was born pure, the eternally pure Shuka, the son of Vyasa. So long as there is selfishness in the heart, so long is love of God impossible. It is nothing but shopkeeping. I give you something, you give me something in return. And says the Lord, if you do not do this, I will take good care of you when you die. I will roast you all the rest of your lives, perhaps, and so on. So long as such ideas are in the brain, how can one understand the mad throes of the gopis' love?" Swami's lecture. Oh, for one kiss of those lips, one who has been kissed by thee, his thirst for thee increases forever. All sorrows vanish, and he forgets love for everything else but thee and thee alone. Forget first the love for gold and name and fame, and this for this little trumpery world of ours. Then, only then, you will understand the love of the gopis. Too holy to be attempted without giving up everything. Too sacred to be understood until the soul has become perfectly pure. People with ideas of sex and of money and of fame bubbling up every minute in the heart, daring to criticize and understand the love of the gopis. That is the very essence of the Krishna incarnation. Then Swamiji goes on to say, even the Gita, the great philosophy itself, does not compare with that madness. For in the Gita, the disciple is taught slowly how to walk towards the goal. But here, means in Rasalila, is the madness of enjoyment, the drunkenness of love, where disciples and teachers and teachings and books and all these things have become one. Even the ideas of fear and God and heaven, everything has been thrown away. What remains is the madness of love. It is forgetfulness of everything. And the lovers is nothing in the world except that Krishna and Krishna alone. When the face of every being becomes a Krishna, when his own face looks like Krishna, when his own soul has become tinged with the Krishna color, that was the great Krishna. Coming back to Swami Turiyananda, in the Bhagavata, we find in the supplication of the gopis that they had the idea of Gita and Sri Krishna from the very beginning. When the gopis approached him And he asked them to go away. They said, we have come to thee, leaving our husbands, fathers, children, relatives, friends and everything. Where is the place to go to? Are you not inside everything as the inner self? The gopis attained perfect concentration on Sri Krishna. If there is concentration on any single object, there the idea of God manifests itself. The gopis were not ordinary human beings. Theirs were spiritual bodies. Their bodies were spiritual. Their mind also was spiritual. I have already mentioned, Ramakrishna called all his disciples to his room and asked them to sit surrounding him and asked them to meditate on him. Then he said, this is Rasa Leela. Now before we go, I will conclude with one incident. Now Sri Ramakrishna sometimes refer to the incidents in the Bhagavatam, particularly in the 10th skanda, Dashama skanda. And there is one episode which is called Gopika Vastra Apaharana. Sri Krishna hides the clothes of gopis. You know the incident. One day the gopis went to take bath, and then Sri Krishna with his companions and was hiding on the branches of a tree, and when they were unaware, he collects all the clothes, climbs up, and then he shouts. And they looked up, their clothes are gone. They were totally naked. They were begging, Krishna, please give back our clothes. Then Sri Krishna was telling, no, you come out here. So they were trying, to cover their shame. He said, no, you have to put your hands like that so that your whole body will be visible to me, and then you come out. This is then they had no option. Why there was no option? Because it was winter and it was cold. How long can they stay in that water? They had no option. And then they came out in that, and then Krishna gives. This was the incident. How do you interpret it? Krishna wants to see the naked bodies of some young girls. Is that what he meant? What was Sri Ramakrishna's explanation? If you have read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, there is an explanation. What is it?
Get rid of the feeling of shame.
To kill
Body
the ego.
He wanted to make them surrender themselves totally. If a person surrenders, he says, I will first clothe myself fully and then I will surrender to you. Surrender means what? Your body, your mind, whatever belongs to you, everything belongs to whom? To me. If your body belongs to me, do you have anything called, I have got shame and I cannot come like that? What is the idea? Anybody with body consciousness cannot surrender himself or herself to God. Sri Krishna with one stroke removed their total body consciousness, making them aware that we are not bodies, much less women bodies, but we are nothing but the divine souls. That was the Sri Ramakrishna's interpretation. Now you have to understand every episode that is taking place in the Bhagavatam only in the light of some of these utterances. Now we know who were gopis. They were not bodies, they were spiritual people. And who was Krishna? Not an ordinary human male body, but Bhagavan himself. And all these incidents go to make up our special understanding of what is called Rasa Leela. So the last question that comes is, why these great souls describe these highest spiritual truths in the form of this, what you call, erotic imagery. So this is not Bhagavatam tells it, and old Bible, King Solomon's songs tell it, and in so many other ways, this erotic feeling is there. Erotic imagery is there. For simple example, whom do Vaishnavas worship? No? Radha and Krishna. And are they old or young? Very good. Is it not an erotic imagery? Here is young Radha, here is young Krishna. That's why so many people, there is somewhere, I have not read it here, says by thinking of the meditating on the Rasa Leela, so many people had gone down the drain. And that's why Swamiji says, unless you have reason above lust and greed and body consciousness, do not even open the Bhagavatam and read. What a thrilling incident it is. In short, what it is, the Leela that between Sri Krishna and gopis is called the Leela between the loving devotee and the loving God. This union between the love, devotion of the devotee and the grace of God. That union is called Rasa Leela. That is how we have to understand. That's why Swami Vivekananda pointedly tells us. Who was the narrator? Shukadeva. Who was the listener? Two type of people. Parikshit. At that time, what was the condition of the Parikshit? He was on the deathbed. Within 7 days, you are going to die. And who are all the other listeners? All the great munis and rishis, they gathered round. What a wonderful thing it is. If Shukadeva is a great realized soul, telling to a man who wanted only liberation, is not interested in anything else, and all the other listeners were also of the highest type of spiritual minds, what does this Rasa Leela really mean? It only means spiritual union between a loving devotee and the loving Lord. That is the key we have to understand. Why did I take the whole class narrating this incident? Because with this background, now you go to Sri Ramakrishna's life, how he moved, when he moved with others. How did he move? Sri Ramakrishna's own words. Sri Krishna approached gopis in what mode? As a woman, identifying himself. How did Sri Ramakrishna approach the other women? As man or as a woman? As a woman. And what type of woman? An ordinary woman approaching another ordinary woman? An elevated soul. And how did they also react to Sri Ramakrishna's presence? That's what we will discuss in our next